You're listening to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast, the podcast that keeps your practice sharp and your clients happy. I'm your host, immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and every week we're bringing you insights, tips, and real-world conversations with top immigration attorneys and industry leaders. Whether you're here to grow your practice, stay on top of the latest trends, or get inspired, you're in the right place. Ready? Let's go. Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 391 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast. Real cool interview we're having with Joseph or Joey Barnett from the Wolfstorff Rosenthal law firm, and it's headquartered in Los Angeles, but there's a national firm. I saw a posted on LinkedIn about Chinese Communist Party membership and the updates they're doing in the fan. That's going to be hitting a lot of people, a lot of clients, because obviously China is one of the biggest immigrant groups in the United States, and a lot of people handle those. So thought it's very important to bring that information to you as soon as possible. And you saw the post. LinkedIn is such a good place to get that information. People posting a lot of great stuff, and try to accumulate it here and just doing the top 10 episode again. If you haven't listened to that one, I definitely recommend doing it. It's the previous episode to this one, 390. But share that information along with, everything I study, AO decisions for EB-1A, for example. That's going to be, that's already posted, episode number 300, and that's 2 episodes ago, let's put it that way. But he talks about also how he got started in immigration law. It's very helpful for people learning about it. Just get to know him better. Real good guy I connect with too. So I'm really happy with this interview that we did. And he's very kind. He's going to publish an article in the next issue of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine, issue number 10. That's probably coming out in a month or so about this Communist Party membership topic. And I want to thank him and also thank the sponsor for both this episode and issue number 10 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine. I recently caught up with the folks at E-Immigration. You all know it, E-Immigration by Serenade, who shared a big announcement, hot off the presses. Have you heard? E-Immigration is now integrated with VisaLaw.ai. Over 10,000 users can now connect their E-Immigration accounts to VisaLaw.ai, allowing them to generate expert letters, court documents, petition briefs, and entire case packets directly within their case management system. If you're already a user of E-Immigration, you just connect it with your VisaLaw.ai account, and then vice versa. So it's really helpful. It's case management meets modern drafting, so you can build stronger cases faster than ever. The combination of E-Immigration and VisaLaw.ai means what used to take hours can now be done in minutes. Just think how much faster immigration workflows can be. Learn more at get.eimmigration.com/VisaLawAI. That's get.eimmigration.com/VisaLawAI. So I really recommend doing that. At least do a test run. Check out their website for it to see what's going on. It's a great addition to your practice. Speaking of great additions to your practice, our EB-1A course is finally out. I'm really excited about it. Work hard on it to get the best information in one. As you've seen from the podcast that we do, the previous episode on EB-1As, AO decisions. I've studied this stuff for years, have cases, consulting on it, talking with people who've had denied cases, RFEs that contact me, other lawyers, and just put all this information succinctly in a place where you could access it and expand your practice, get to know it better. Or if you're already practicing EB-1A, learn tidbits. I've learned so much from people contact me when they get their cases denied. I review other people's stuff. And even those cases, or people, I do consular processing for cases where someone else did the EB-1A but doesn't do consular processing. So over years, I've picked up a lot of tidbits and fine-tuned my process based on seeing other people's work. You might not have access to all this troves of data that I get access to. So what I did is I put it there. We have redacted copies of approvals, something really helpful, again, to expand your practice and become more successful in this sphere, in this area, so this field. So if you want to get it, purchase this premium course. If you're already a member of our community page on circle.so, just click on the EB-1A link on the left, and it's a combo package. I put our own one seminar, live seminar we did. So you buy 2 for 1 right there. And the EB-1A course comes with office hours where you could just ask anything, practice or legal, anything. I don't do O1s, but the EB-1A I do. And so through that, get to just pick my brain. It's 4th Thursday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. And if you're not already a member of Circle S, so either if you want to buy the course or be part of the member, we have tons of white label content, free marketing content. You put your logo on it for your firm, videos on training and discussion groups, all this kind of stuff. Just email me with your full name and bar information so I can look you up, make sure you're a private practice attorney, and we'll get you at it to get you to the next level. Again, that's the EB-1A course, O1 combo, and the community, Circle.so, the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox community. Let's get the show started. None of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an attorney about your case, but you all know that already. Let's go. Hi, Joey. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, John. I've been a longtime follower, and it's an honor to be here. So thank you.
Much appreciated. So, the first question I usually ask for people, especially if they're on the show for the first time, is how you got into immigration law. What's your background? Maybe even start before that. Where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Midwest boy, born and raised. I got into immigration. It was my second job after law school. I did bankruptcy for a little bit, and then I got thrown into the world of EB-5. I always
Well, let's
felt
slow it
very.
down really quick because I was trying to get into bankruptcy too, except like I couldn't get into like cool bankruptcy, corporate bankruptcy. What year was it that you graduated?
So I graduated in 2010. So it's 15 years now of practice. And it was consumer bankruptcy right after the recession. It was not very pretty, not what I wanted to be doing. I went to Vermont Law School. I wanted to do environmental law. That was my main focus. Immigration matched to some extent because it's administrative law. You're dealing with a government agency. The Administrative Procedures Act applies. And so I found it to be very close to what I had enjoyed and sort of found the administrative side of it to pique my interest. So I've continued on to that and now have been practicing EB-5 for just about 14, 15 years. And I am one of the chairs of American Immigration Lawyers Association's EB-5 committee. It's my principal area of practice. We help a lot of folks from China, from India, from Vietnam, and really all over the world do EB-5. And the reason why I have been um, writing about this Communist Party membership inadmissibility is because a fair number of our clients have had to deal with this at the immigrant visa consular stage,
Mhm. Well,
whether
you're
they are.
jumping ahead. I still want to learn more
Okay,
about something.
sorry,
So
sorry.
when
I'm
you,
so excited to talk about it.
me too. So well, okay. So you got into EB-5, but how'd that happen? Was this with Wolfstorff Rosenthal LLP or another firm, and you moved? Then you moved there.
It was with a very small firm based out of Chicago. I worked there for 5 years doing a lot of source of funds type
Yeah.
stuff, some regional center compliance type stuff. But my wife is from California, from Los Angeles, and that's where we knew we wanted to end up. And so, yeah, it's been about 10 years that I've been practicing now at WR Immigration, and it's just a U.S. immigration law firm. We do have a global side, but it's immigration only. And I'm very, very lucky and grateful for the opportunities that I've been given through Bernie and Cliff and the other fantastic attorneys at this
So
firm.
they're headquartered in Santa Monica. You got that nice building that you see on it's not Third Street, it's like Second Street. Is that still where you work? Because I imagine you guys are huge now. So you have multiple offices.
Yeah, the firm does own that property, but we are pretty much all remote at this point. I
Oh,
would
cool.
say 98% remote. That is our principal headquarters for the firm, at least for our EB-5 office. But we do have offices in New York, in Boston, in Bay Area, in Denver, and San Diego. So we are well on our way to world domination. Just give us a few more years.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers I try to keep track of lawyers. You guys are just like growing, and I did this. Grok AI is like the competitor for ChatGPT. I saw a Twitter account that said like you analyze your field and stuff like that, and get reports that you would have got from one of these like big companies that you hired to do reports. Just tell Grok and copy paste this. So I copy paste. I'm in the legal industry, immigration law, this and that, and then it said like the top 5 firms of Wolfstorff, and I'm like, by numbers, I think you're in the top 10 at this point because you got a lot of lawyers, but I maybe haven't kept up on it. But it's definitely like you guys are eating it all like in a positive way. They're taking over. Now, you 2010 is when you got to graduated. Around that time, EB-5 was really big. I was even doing it at the firm I was working at, and then it kind of like when they got kind of annoyed about it. So how have you kept it going? I mean, Wolfstorff's like number one in that, and you have a lot of Chinese immigration in Vietnam and stuff like that. You guys do EB-5, but 2010, 11, 12 was the boom, and then they start cracking down on it. There was like there are issues with financing where lawyers are getting funds from both parties. Issues there, and then they're cracking down source of funds and huge delays. So there's a lot of lawsuit for delays. Like, how have you withstood the EB-5 insanity that was like 2015 to 2020? I guess now it's coming back again. Any stories or tidbits or things you've seen fighting it out this whole time?
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it. And I think with all things in immigration law, you got to keep the faith that it's ultimately going to end up working out well. There have been long delays with EB-5. There have been lapses of regional center programs. There's been lawsuits sort of terminating EB-5 regulations. And so it has been a roller coaster over the past 10 years or so. But I do think EB-5 has evolved over the past 5 years. It's much less wild, wild west than it was when we first started. You have very professional regional center operators who
Hmm.
are very good about managing money and limiting immigration risk. So it has changed, but yeah, there was definitely a period of time there. I would say from 2019 to 2022 where EB-5 was kind of broken,
Hmm.
and we didn't have a lot of action there. And when that happened, and then it was the COVID slowdowns as well during that time, that's where I started inching a little bit towards federal court immigration delay stuff. So I started going there and doing more E's and L's. But yeah, that was a slow time.
Hmm.
And then since the EB-5 law was passed in 2022, it's been gangbusters, super busy, and I don't see it slowing down really until the end of September of 2026, because that's when there's this grandfathering language in for existing investors. If Congress doesn't extend the regional center program, if you file your I-526, your immigrant petition before September 30th, 2026, you still get the immigration benefit. And so that is a provision in the law that Congress put in 2022. I really hope and foresee they don't change that. I guess there's nothing stopping them, but that's the hope there.
Do you have any information about this golden card Trump was talking about? Is it anything? Because is it even possible for him to initiate a program like that without statute, or is he just going to morph the EB-5 program into that? Do you know? We haven't talked about this before, but do you know anything that to share?
Unfortunately, it's been 2 weeks away for the past 5 months. I don't see any changes. I don't see any regulations. From what I understand, there isn't a lot of talk on Congress about this. It is something that I believe he's trying to do administratively, whether it's changing the criteria for an EB2 NIW or something along
Yeah.
those lines is what I've heard, but nothing. They have a nice website where you can go in and put your information and say, hey, we'll tell you more about it when we have information. That's the extent of it. It's been a lot of talk about nothing to date.
Mhm. Now, kind of get into what's going on with Chinese migration is for EB-5. A lot of my friends who did do a lot of EB-5, they used to be at least constantly flying to China and doing the rounds and stuff. Did you ever have to do that? Are you still doing that? Is it constant flights back and forth?
It's not so much that anymore. Yes, there is some travel internationally and working with international migration agents who have the connections with potential investors and educating them about EB-5. But I would say that in the big change since 2022 with EB-5 is that the majority of the investors now are located in the United States.
Oh, interesting.
They are on H-1B or on F1. If they're Indian or Chinese, maybe stuck in a backlog on EB2, EB3, they see that as current in the visa bulletin,
Hmm.
and they are taking advantage of that and filing the adjustment of status today concurrently. So that has been a big change. Overall, though, you are correct. China is still the big guy in the room. And I think like over half the petitions are filed by Chinese nationals.
I just remember like they had source of funds. I did a lot of Iranian B5 back when you could somewhat do source of funds, but now when they call me, I'm like, oh, good luck. I don't even touch that money transfer unless you got like a relative in the U.S. to transfer the money. But China had the issue too of where they had currency controls. You couldn't take money out, or it was just so convoluted to fix it up that I was just like I gave up on it. It was like too complicated. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, the source of funds is by far one of the trickiest elements of EB-5, and they are really picky
Yeah.
about it. They're forensic accountants, the Hawala broker currency exchanger, their inquiries has expanded significantly. Even if courts have said it's not proper, they still continue to do it.
Yeah.
And so we prepare cases so that they can get approved.
Yeah, that's the thing that people get annoyed and shocked by. It's like, well, I just, I already sent the money over. I'm like, oh no, like we didn't source it, we didn't trace it. It's like say for E2s if they want to be tricky about it. But you had posted on LinkedIn, which I do recommend people going to. Your full name is Joseph Barnett or Joy Barnett. You had a great post because they updated the Foreign Affairs Manual, and AILA, at least it used to have a. I used to check my AILA emails a lot, but it just got overwhelming. But they update you when FAM stuff happens. But I saw I did this great post about 10 things that are updated on Communist Party membership, which particularly affects China, but I'm assuming if that's Vietnam and a couple other countries too, where they did get really hardcore on, even if like membership was forced, or your low level kind of membership. Could you talk about the changes and what you're seeing?
Absolutely. So this all relates to this ground of inadmissibility, which is membership of Communist Party or totalitarian government or affiliated with them. And what they have done is pretty much said, well, if you worked in a certain position, or if you're in the military or you had a certain passport, these are pretty much presumptions that you are a member of the Communist Party in China and therefore are ineligible to receive a visa unless you have some sort of exception or past membership or they got rid of this non-meaningful exception which used to be in there. There was a Supreme Court decision from the 1950s which pretty much said, well, if you're a member of the party but you don't align to the ideological interests of it and you have never really taken active steps and it's a non-meaningful association, then you could still be eligible, and that has been removed from the FAM. So that's one of the things that I think they'll be picking on a little bit more. I see this coming up in adjustment of status interviews. I see this coming up at naturalization interviews. We're seeing it come up at denaturalization.
Ooh.
Now,
So
that's
you've had people, because you hear about denaturalization. Never had someone contact me on it. You guys are getting contacts for denaturalization?
I am on the EB-5 committee, and one of our members had mentioned that, yeah, they had gotten something like that. And they're all quoting, these memos that have come out in 2025 saying, these are, the people that we want NTAs to be issued for, stuff like that. And so, but I absolutely seeing it come out during non-immigrant visa interviews as well. And I think like the real issue here is that people are somewhat stuck in between a geopolitical fight, whether you joined it when you were 16 because you needed to, get that job out of high school, get that position. Like those are now coming back to bite people. I was on another listserv today where I saw that foreign students in China that are at like sort of top Chinese universities are now being deemed inadmissible because they're affiliated with these Chinese like universities, which are affiliated with the government. And they're saying, okay, you're affiliated with the government of China. Good, you're not coming in. And there's no waiver for non-immigrant visas. There's a really limited waiver for immigrant visas, and it requires you to have a U.S. citizen, family member. And so I think this is another part of the Trump administration crackdown, making it harder to do, legal immigration. And for what it's worth, I'm sure you have had other attorneys come on this before and say, it's not like they're necessarily rewriting laws. They're just enforcing them a lot more strictly. And this is just another area where I see, Stephen Miller's fingerprints all over it.
Yeah, I was at an adjustment of status meeting today, and I told the client, I'm like, listen, like the immigration laws and regulation, there's a gazillion of them, but it's just like they don't enforce a lot of them. Like this AR-11s, for example, change of address. I mean, they have like prison time and it's harsh consequences, but no one, unless you have an immigration lawyer helping you, no one does an AR-11. But they could just turn that on easily. I mean, I hate to even say this out loud because they're listening, but they could just turn on the AR-11 reason to really screw over a bunch of people because no one even knows what AR-11 is. Plus, they made it so hard to even like correct it. Like it doesn't work. They had one system that was good for a while, but now they made it through the myUSCIS.gov system, which is clunky. And like when I update clients' information, doesn't update there, doesn't show me it's been updated, so it leaves me hanging. But yeah, they could just interpretation or decision to finally enforce something that's never been enforced. I mean, it's got to be in one sense, it's like got to be lawsuits because it's not fair because it just set the tone of the laws being a certain way. But the way the Supreme Court is and the courts are like just handing everything over to the administration, it's super messy. Thank you for listening. I want to jump in really quick to remind you of the EB-1A course that's out, EB-1A Extraordinary Ability combo with O1 Live Seminar, hours and hours of content about how to become a business immigration lawyer, do those kind of extraordinary ability cases. Doesn't need an employment offer. That's a great thing. O1s have this sort of like letter you need, but for the most EB-1A doesn't need that, which makes it really easy because people just go on their merit. And I discuss what the important stuff are, have redacted copies, help you, and much more. You can binge watch in a video series and do office hours, ask me questions. So it's really helpful to get your practice to the next level. If you want to add it to your repertoire, email me info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. It's for lawyers only, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Have you said that? Let's get back to the show.
It is very messy. If the consulate says you're inadmissible because of Communist Party membership, you can do like a request for reconsideration and really prepare a brief and the record.
Yeah.
Generally, what we've seen them do is issue like an RFE at the consulate stage, which kind of talks about like, hey, well, when did you join? What positions did you have? And you should really make sure that your clients come with you and you help prepare that response before they do it on their own, because that's going to be held against them for the rest of their immigration life as well. So there are opportunities where you can kind of force them to reconsider, but you can't challenge a consulate's decision, right? Consular non-reviewability. And then the adjustment, if it's denied on the adjustment, now post Patel, they're saying, okay, well, you can review that in removal.
Yeah.
And so it is very scary right now. I think the enforcement of older immigration laws that have been sort of long-standing, hey, we've let you do this, that is changing. And I think immigration attorneys need to be more conservative about that. I know I need to be. Like, for example, when you file an adjustment of status, you're here on an H-1B visa, you've been here for 10 years, you're stuck in a backlog, you do EB-5, you file the adjustment. At that point, I've been telling people, well, you're in a period of authorized stay because you filed that. Well, that's not lawful immigration status. That means that you're not accruing unlawful presence. But from what I understand, the Trump administration is saying, well, no, you're not here lawfully.
Yeah.
And you have to defend that with an NTA, like in immigration court.
And potential being detained in the meantime and maybe ask for bond.
Exactly. So like that is scaring me significantly, and something that, these changed enforcement priorities is really making me rethink the types of counsel we need to give to clients. It's maybe legally permissible, but risky.
Yeah, I was having a conversation earlier where a guy was on F1 OPT and he just lost his job, but he's like, I was marrying my citizen spouse. I'll just wait for the work permit. And I'm like, no. Don't let the OPT run out because you're going to have no status after the 9 days of unemployment. And it's probably a low chance to do something against you, but inevitably, if they detain you, you'll get married to U.S. citizens, you'll get approved, but after you go through the hell of getting sent to Florida or Alligator, who knows what kind of craziness they're going to put you through. So it's like, I'm going to just get a job and keep that OPT alive. Don't let it like fall out of status. Because now they have more employees for ICE too. So before where CVIS was managed, like, 5 officers managing 20,000 F1 students, they're going to have AI systems, computer systems, more people managing CVIS and being keeping an eye on it. So when these lapses, errors, or unemployment happen, they're going to be able to count this stuff out. So it's a crazy situation.
Yeah. And I would say that big, beautiful bill, how much more money did ICE get to go enforce the immigration laws? I hear that they're firing, long-standing immigration judges and replacing, they're doing, I don't want to say they're changing the rules, so to speak, but they're looking at this from a 3D chess point of view, and we have to respond.
Yeah, I mean, for what it is, it's very competently be done with how they're doing this stuff. What note for listeners is that a lot of people in China, if they're really good students, when they're in high school, they get to join they push them kind of join like a child membership of the Communist Party. And if you say no, it's going to look bad. If you say yes, you're going to be able to get better schools. So it's one of those forced situations, but it potentially could come back be problematic. Another update I saw a colleague posted is that in China, they're taking away minor interview waivers for immigrant visas if you're a minor or something like that. So you still have to come with a parent to the interview if you're in China. So it's probably going to start there if I go everywhere else. But it really keep an eye out on China. In addition to like the previous bans they had for if they're coming to study in certain fields and all that kind of stuff. So that's something you got to like,
Right.
talk to people ahead of time. What you're studying, what you're doing. Just there's a lot of extra prep that wasn't necessary before.
And one of the big changes in the FAM last month was related to that, like people who join solely for, education purposes, employment-based purposes. What the FAM now says is, it has to do with essentials of living. It's like a low standard. So
Yeah.
if you got more than just the essentials of living, then that is no longer involuntary membership. You got to benefit from it, and therefore are inadmissible. Is what the FAM is
Wow,
saying.
that's nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just they're going to expand that to other countries when they have like these certain issues with foreign policy of the United States getting him. If
Yep.
I'll ask you for it later, but I want to. I would include a link. It's probably I could just get off LinkedIn. A link to the post that you had, so people could find you there. But what's it look like for the rest of the year? And I mean, obviously, you're doing a lot of EB-5 work. You've gone into lawsuits. Which direction is your career taking right now?
That's a great question. I like where I'm at right now with EB-5. I think there's a lot of different areas that still need to be explained and expounded on from the RIA. So I'm happy to be where I am. I see no slowdown in the number of people who want to do EB-5. But I think there are serious challenges, and we need to make sure that Congress reauthorizes the program. I'll also say we do a monthly chatting with Charlie Oppenheim. He used to work for the Department of State. I now have the honor of doing like a YouTube with him. So we do a chatting with Charlie. We talk about EB-5. He has another one where he talks about EB-2 and EB-3 with my partner Sharina.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great way to kind of keep ahead of what's happening in the visa bulletin, because that thing impacts everyone in immigration.
Yeah, as soon as he left his position, he came on board. I mean, I remember seeing, I think it was Wolfstar himself, like talking with him at events and stuff. I'm like, oh, they seem like know each other. So as soon as he left, is he work directly with you guys, or just kind of consulting? Or I hope that's not.
He's consulting. He does the podcast. He helps with expert testimony. He helps advise clients with wait times in all of the different categories. Yeah. But it's been good. He also has just been super helpful in us and just trying to understand what exactly is going on with the visa bulletin, because it's been a bit different since he left, and there's been a lot more volatility. And it's kind of hard to understand it all. So
has he been able to give you an explanation? Because it's just, especially after he left, it got worse. Where it's like stop, and then nothing happens, then it jumps, and then jumps forward, so it's backwards, and it's just like this. I think one of them retrogress was some category EB-2 or something like that this time. But
yeah,
it's like, dude, like could we have some sort of get the reliable system? Because people ask you like, how long does this take? That I'm like, I don't know. Like this chart doesn't move sometimes for years on the family categories, and then it goes back. F2A went from being current for so many years to then going like 3-4 years back. It's like, how does that happen? How do they not like kind of time it out or something? Has there been any like epiphany that for us to understand, or still it's kind of like this unknown system?
A couple of things. One, because of the consulate closures during COVID, there was a lot of extra visa supply in those years. So that got to push the dates out further. And now it's creeping back. But I'm not going to speak for Charlie, I think he does think that there could be less volatility if they made certain decisions. And I think he tries to give his 2 cents. I don't know how much they listen to him. But it's definitely something that everyone keeps an eye on a monthly basis, because it is always changing.
And it's so much policy. I mean, in EB-5 in particular, it's like, how do you count the household size? Is one visa for the family or one visa, and that could completely change the categories. And if they interpret that, and fortunately, they're sticking their guns to just one visa number per person.
Exactly. That is definitely a shame, but that is their interpretation. It's been challenged. The courts have upheld it as reasonable. I also don't know. I mean, there is language in the statute which maybe makes an exception for EB-5, but I do think it would be a little strange if they didn't count it for EB-5, but did for everybody
Yeah.
else. I don't know if that would be fair
Yeah.
either. So I understand the other point of view as
Well,
well.
stay on the line for a little bit after this, but if people want to reach out to you, connect with you, what's the best way they can do that?
My email, jbarnett@wolfsdorf.com. I'm addicted to it. My thumb goes there in the morning as soon as I wake up, without my brain even functioning. But I do turn on the brain before responding.
I
So
guess you
yeah,
probably
feel
have
free
like
to
a
reach.
50 to 100 emails when you wake up in the morning with the amount of like volume you guys are doing.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, it's super fun. But you know what? It's really great. I do love immigration because I do feel like we are really helping people. A lot of people in this space, they don't have representation, and it's so tricky and so
Yeah.
complicated. Immigration attorneys don't know half the rules in immigration,
Yeah.
and so let alone someone trying to do it on their own. The same way that someone helped my grandfather 80 years ago. It's nice to be full circle and to help someone else
What
out.
country is your
So,
family from?
my grandfather survived the
Dang.
Holocaust. He was born in Hungary, in Budapest. He was taken to some place, in Eastern Europe that didn't have a name, and was at a work labor camp for a
Wow.
while, and ended up getting a scholarship over here through BBYO, and he ended up going to Texas
What
A&M
years was
on
this?
a 1948.
Okay, so he made it through the war and the Holocaust itself. He made it out.
He,
Wow.
sur- he survived the war. He walked back home to Budapest after the Nazis
Yeah.
left, and then applied for a scholarship. He was an engineering student, and he made it his way here.
And Hungary
So,
is one of the worst
um,
because they just they fully participated like with Germany and everything. So it was did he have like want to get out of Hungary as soon as possible kind of thing? Like, get away from these people. Like,
yeah, well, I think it was just him and one second cousin were the only
dang.
people who were left, and so yeah, he had nowhere really else to go other than the future in the United
It
States.
is kind
So.
of personal stuff, but like, did he ever talk about it? Or was it one of those things he just never wanted to like bring up again, or did he go into detail about what the experience was?
He he spoke when Steven Spielberg did that thing during the Schindler's List, and he actually spoke afterwards. He does a lot of Holocaust education. My family is very big on that. My mom still does it. Holocaust Education Resource Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She travels around the state teaching people about the Holocaust, that it did happen, and it's of course kind of a conversation with her and her father, who passed 15 years ago as well. And that's definitely something I plan to do in my future as well, for sure. It's
You
important.
probably know that everyone knows the book Viktor Frankl's meaning. I forgot the title. Yeah, because I was the Holocaust growing up was just it was like a death camp in a sense. I think this kind of more of a stuff to talk about, but like it really taught me it's like it was a slavery camp. Like the primary use of it was just like slave labor. So it was like, oh, they're just used as slavery until the person just gives out. Then they will do it until like the end of it, where they just went all crazy with it. But I was like, oh, I did really to give a different perspective of like how like what life was there because and what they were doing on a day-to-day basis. Was just straight up
Yeah,
like slavery and hard work and railways and doing all sorts of construction projects.
exactly. Exactly. That's what he was doing. He was felling trees and building roads and bridges for the Germans. Was what he was doing during that time.
Wild story, and yeah, well, we'll talk more offline in a sec. But thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much for having me, and thank you,
You
thank
got
you.
it, brother. Thanks. Thank you for everyone to watch, and thank you, Joy Barnett, for coming on the show. What a nice guy. I met him at the ILA conference, and he was so kind there, and he's kind to come on the show and provide an article for the magazine. Hope to have him on more and just share his knowledge, years of experience in this area, hardcore volume, so he knows a lot of that he could share. I really appreciate that. And I'm all about sharing information. Both colleagues who have contributed to the magazine, and we're sharing that information, and my own stuff, EB-1A, and the course that's out right now. I just want to remind you about that. Go to circle.so.com to purchase that, or email me if you're not a member of the community page. Just your full name and bar info. And if you want the course, let me know. I'll send you info on that. info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Having said that, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. If you like this episode, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, where we post the latest statistics, tips, and more. And stay tuned for more from the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast.